happy to discuss on chapter here today or not? Chapter text. Maybe not necessary.
Yeah, we should just say it was submitted, but, so,
Here we can talk about it.
yeah. So Alexi submitted it, but said telechat's not until the 21st. Right.
Okay. You're following. I'm following you. I'm just trying to.
Brett, do you have Jabber capability?
What's Jabber? Is that one of those really old protocols that no one uses anymore?
Oh, that must be fighting words.
Do you have slides?
I do not have slides.
Well, it's one of those things that uses XML. I'm allergic to XML. No, you need me to
There
do
is
something?
JSON capability.
Do you need me to do something?
Well,
Hey, can you tell me what I need to do? I can help you.
Jabber Scribe.
What does that mean? Jabber.
It means you launch your Jabber application and you go to teep@jabber.com
Mile, Jabber. Mile.
or Mile.
No longer
Sorry.
teach. And then I just relay what people say, or do I type something to it?
You relay what people say and then you can summarize what's happening in the room.
If I can figure out how to get a Jabber client.
Thank you.
Trying to avoid technologies from the event.
Very good.
So the chapter talk. So we just have a certain things as is. It's a nice one we discussed last time. We'll still on top of
Yeah, it's a question because they haven't heard that. So I can't do anything else at all.
for this one. Sorry.
Oh, we're early. Wow. What's up with that? Oh, we're late.
Yes.
All right. Should we start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right, we're going to get started. Whoa, that's loud. Welcome to the MILE Working Group. So we actually have a good turnout. It's not bad. You're smiling, Roman. All right, next slide. So it's kind of the end of the first day, so I'm presuming you've attended some sessions, so I don't have to go through the note well, but standard procedures apply. Let's go through the agenda. Next slide. So there is still also a CSERT draft, but since the author isn't here, we took him off the agenda. So there may be a little discord with what might be posted in the meeting materials. So we'll go through the status of the working group. Thank you, everybody, for providing the feedback over the email in the last couple months to get the rechartering text done. So we'll go through that real quick. I will provide an update on the XMPP draft. Take, will you provide the update on the JSON draft? And then if there's any other business, we can discuss that last. Is there any other feedback on the agenda? Hearing none. So blue sheets should be being passed around. We very much appreciate Chris and Roman for being our note takers. And Brett, are you all set for being?
I'm trying to get Jabber working. Apparently, I messaged to use Jabber, but I can't figure out how to connect. Sorry, I don't use it.
Well, does anybody else have Jabber capability? You don't? All right. Well, I'll keep my fingers crossed, Brett, and I've got my mail open in case. There is actually. Yeah. I don't know how to get into the Meet Echo room.
Just pressing button, I guess.
No. For Brett to get into the Meet Echo. Can you see if there's, no, nobody's on the Meet Echo. So I think Stephen's getting busy for his wedding. So we'll give him a pass. Okay, so quick review of MILE. So what we tried to do also on the rechartering. So we don't have the text up, but everybody monitoring the mail group. The draft text was there. So basically, MILE, for those of you who may be new to this group, the focus is for us to define data representations for incidents effectively, and also define the mapping for how we transport the incidents. There are, for the main data representation, we've been working on IODEF as the effective data model. There have been some extension work on it, as well as interoperability and implementation reports. So there's a couple of drafts there that are listed. For the transport, we did very early on standardize on a RESTful interface that's RID. Since then, we've been working on a couple of draft, which is the next follow-on on another RESTful interface called ROLI, as well as one that's XMPP based. State your name, please.
Brett Jordan. Isn't RID SOAPy instead of RESTfully?
Yes, you're right. Sorry. Thank you for that correction. And then there's been some guideline documentation and practices for implementation of IODEF as well. And that work on the guidelines, as far as we know, those have been completed. So the outstanding items as we know them now, although they're moving further along, is the JSON instantiation for IODEF, providing CSRT reports through ROLI, and then using an XMPP-based fabric, if you will, for transporting incident information. Since then, there was discussion about also showing mapping for other incident formats like sticks. And so if you look at the charter text, we're basically looking to recharter to do just that, if you will, right? So as far as we know, the recharter was submitted, I think like 3 weeks ago, and there were basically 3 or 4 comments, only one blocking comment, and one was because we We failed to get the acronym correct for STICS. We had the acronym correct, we just didn't have the meaning correct, as well as the link for it. So we've resolved that. The next telechat to approve the rechartering is happening, I believe, November 21st. So hopefully we'll get feedback from there. Okay, so reviewing the milestones, as far as we believe, so thank you, Take, for going through some of the Shepherd write-up. We completed the working group last call for XMPP grid. Yes. So we believe that has been completed. Taki has now submitted it, the Shepherd write-up, and I'll provide a brief update in a little bit for what's been done in version 8. Without the main author for the Rowley CSERT extension, I believe we're still on track. I've not been able to sync up with him. I am the shepherd for that draft. Who has read the latest version? Okay. For the Rowley CSERT, I didn't see any updates from Stephen, and I expect not to get any feedback from Stephen for a while.
Hope not.
Well, he could defer the honeymoon, you know.
That's a great way to start off on the wrong foot.
Okay, fine. So we think we're still on track for that. So the intent is to do a working group last call. So I will, can I just, for the note takers, can I have a show of hand for who is willing to review that draft? So I have Roman, Frank, I just blipped your name. Mike, sorry. And your name? And Wei. So if we can get those reviews, hopefully before IETF 104, that will give us some indication for whether we are on track for it to go through. And then the JSON IODEF, I don't know that I saw many comments on it.
Maybe I can talk about it.
Okay, so we'll have Taki discuss that. So as far as I can tell, I believe we are on track. If the recharter happens, Brett, am I to assume you would volunteer to work with Stephen? Is that correct? For the sticks mapping?
Yes, I've already volunteered
Okay.
to do the bulk of that. I just need help from Stephen, and Stephen has not been available as he's been planning for something really big.
Well, if there's something you need, you can reach out to Mr. Waltermeyer as well, since he's familiar with Rowley. What I'm trying to state is you don't have to wait until the recharter becomes official. You can have an individual draft.
Right. Yeah. So I've already started a draft, especially on the JSON-based Rowley work, and have started working on that and have quite a bit of text there. I just have some questions for Stephen or Dave or whatever to help me make sure it all fits together, and then start working on the sticks pieces of that to make sure that the sticks content can flow through Rowley. Okay.
Makes sense. Oh, good. Our AD is here. No, that's all right. That's all right. So, Alexi, what I had mentioned is that the recharter is going through the review right now, and we resubmit it. So the telechat is, I think, scheduled for the 21st of November.
Yes.
And so what I was recommending to Brett is that he doesn't need to wait for the recharter to happen to get any new work done.
I mean, I cannot read the future, but I suspect the charter will happen. I don't expect any problems from ISG. I
Thank
would have
you.
expected them once the original text was submitted, and there was
And then-
there were unclear things, and now they're resolved. I assume.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it will be plain sailing.
I'm being optimistic given the feedback, right, from the other ADs, so.
Roman Gennadiou, Carnegie Mellon University. So I just wanted to point out something odd about the CSERT Rolly draft. It doesn't actually show up on the MILE documents page at all. It doesn't show up as active draft or as an adopted draft, and it doesn't even show up as a related draft.
We did approve to adopt it as a working group draft. Okay, so Stephen just needs to like,
Yeah, it doesn't
he
show up
he
at
has,
all.
he
because-
has to resubmit it as a working group draft.
Right, but part of the odd thing is it's not even listed as a related draft.
Yeah, it's a rolling
It expired, I guess, some days ago.
Oh, that's why. It's an expired draft.
Right, and I assume you want a separate milestone for it because I don't remember milestone for it either, right?
We did put a milestone for it,
Oh, actually, maybe you did. Yes,
right?
it
because
was one
we-
of the 3 milestones, is it?
Correct.
Right, okay.
So we
Yeah,
agreed
that's
to
fine.
adopt it, and so we just need to. Thank you for pointing that out. But once the draft expires, it kind of, yeah. So I can check to see if maybe Dave can help with that. Note takers, if you can note that, that'll jog my memory to reach out to Dave Waltemeyer too, as well as Stephen. Okay, so with that, we've talked about the MILE status, so let me take my chair hat off talking and
So the next present talk is about XMPP draft. So
can you guys hear me okay? That was really loud.
okay.
Yeah, so I didn't make any slides for the XMPP draft because the only changes to me were more editorial. So from that standpoint, the difference between versions 7 and 8 is that there are no longer any dependencies on the SACM draft, given that it's effectively showing the mapping of how XMPP gets used to carry other incident data like IODEF. There didn't seem to be any reason to keep the SACM terminology, so that was removed. The second thing was updating now that TLS 1.3 has an actual RFC, had to update that reference to use that RFC, the updated RFC. And then the third one was trying to resolve the ID nits, and the ID nits recommended that the JEPs that were used for guidelines for how we do things like service discovery and the pub sub, which is actually part of the base XMPP RFC draft, but I called them out explicitly as the JEPs. So the ID nits recommended that I put them in the informative as opposed to normative. So that was the last change I made. Yes.
Alexei, can you repeat why? It just probably just because it doesn't recognize them as external documents. It just doesn't know about them.
Okay.
If they need normatively, you keep them normatively.
Okay.
So don't worry about this. Just in the shepherding write-up, say, we believe IDNets is wrong on this.
Okay. Then I might
It's
need
not
to
like
resubmit.
It's not artificial intelligence that just, reads the
Right.
universe and knows what to
Well,
do.
I
It's
went
just,
through
it's a bit,
the-
yeah.
Right. And then I looked at how the presence, there were a couple of other RFCs and saw how, and they moved, anyway.
Well, you did submit request publication of the document, did you?
Yeah.
Normative versus informative is a little bit of my favorite topic. So I'll tell you if something,
So tell me,
if it
because,
feels normative the way it's referenced, I'll tell you.
okay,
Yeah, that's fine.
thank you.
So just,
Yeah, I was trying to get rid of the nits, is my bottom line.
in another working group, there is in IMAP, syntactic element is using text in brackets. It always triggers
It's just
ID
the
nits
nits.
because it thinks it's a reference, but it's not. So
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Okay. But this is why I didn't make slides, because there's really no significant differences between the two versions.
Okay, thank you very much. Michael?
Your turn.
Please. So let me talk about the update of our draft. It's a mapping to CBOR and JSON. Sorry. Yeah, this is just mapping to CBOR and JSON of IETF. So this is currently version 6. This is the update. In the last meeting in Montreal, we discussed version 4 of the draft. So in the version 4 draft, we adopted CDDL instead of JSON. And we already provided CDDL, but in the last meeting, the CDDL data model I provided was not perfect. I was not confident. So in these 2 or 3 months, we were revising that by asking experts in Japan. And we got some feedback from the expert, and we thoroughly revised the document and updated. Now the version is 06. In this meeting, we have 06 version. So it has a refined version of the data model. Hopefully we can initiate last call, or we could ask more intensive review from people. So major changes are summarized after this slides. And during my work, we found some errata as well, errata of RFC 7970 as well. They are also reported here. Next one, please. Yes. Oh. Sure.
On the CDDL front, when I was talking with Hank, apparently there's no tooling yet really for CDDL. So maybe it's tooling to actually consume the CDDL and do any verification or use in other programming languages. So yeah, it's really ambitious that we want to support it, and I think CDDL has a potential of being really cool, but we need, like if we want people to use our standards, they need to be like usable in programming languages. So,
but at least we have some tool provided by Casting that reference from the CBOR draft. We are using that tool as well, so we have something to rely on. That's my understanding. But anyway, as you said, the draft is still draft, and CDDL is still a draft. If we have to wait until they have finished their work, we just wait.
As I happen to be area director responsible for the CBOR working group, CDDL just went to IETF last call, so it's going to be on November's ISG telechat. So yeah, hopefully it will be done very soon.
I think that's really awesome, and I think it's really great that it's going to get potentially finished working group and get a number. But and this is kind of where and I can just shut up and go away if this is me just ranting. But unless it gets adopted by industry and it's in code in libraries and it's in more than just one programming language, it's of no use. And so until we get to that point, it's really hard to call it out in our specs and say, hey, everyone go use CDDL to do all the verification when I can't do it in. So.
It's just used for describing syntax, really. I don't think it makes it easier to explain how the structure of something is. I mean, yes, some people would like to use it for automation and generating code, but I think most people can benefit without just
Yeah.
from the syntax.
So Brett, as you were asking, I just did a quick Google. There's cboard.io/tools.html. You might try that.
Frank Xia, Huawei. Can you explain the basic reason why we switch from JSON to CBOR? Because I missed the previous discussion. Because the reason I raised this question because because I know this mile work is for the thread intelligence exchange, so it does not need so high efficiency or so scalability problem. So why we choose CBOR? Because it's it's for efficiency for the yeah.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, at the beginning, we didn't focus on CBOR at all. We were focusing on JSON. JSON was easy to handle by computer. That was the starting point. But we wanted to define or check the syntax by using some schema. But JSON schema was not useful, not defined well. So we decided to use a CDDL. But once we have a CDDL, it's easy to describe everything in CBOR. As a result, we have CBOR and JSON mapping currently.
So is it a trade-off? Because CBOR, if you use CBOR as a format transferred on the network, or how to say, CBOR is not well written or cannot be read by person. It's a binary code. So I want to know the benefits, the disadvantage is there.
It's just a matter of the user interface or system design. If people want to use the output of my working group, people anyway have to have some kind of user interface. User interface try to
yes.
interrupt binary or XML or whatever. So we don't care about it, I guess.
So, okay, on the wire, yeah, we only care on the wire format. That doesn't need to be reader-friendly something.
Yeah, at least we can provide options so user can choose either way.
So, Chris Anasio, and maybe Alexi, you know the answer if you don't take, which is CDL is the schema definition language. Obviously, you can generate CBOR, but isn't it also possible to generate JSON from that?
Yes. Well, you generate CBOR with CBOR.
No, actually, you can directly describe JSON. There is a specific, if you look at CDDL document, there is appendix saying, if you just care about JSON, you will lose some type information in JSON, but you can just use it straight with JSON.
This is my last comment, I promise, and then I will shut up. But the whole purpose of defining these in specification documents and standards is so that we can do verification of content that we get, to make sure that the content is compliant with some sort of specs before we try to parse it and do anything with it. CDDL, yeah, I just looked that up. There's this, Ruby kind of thing that kind of works. And I know JSON schema is old and it doesn't fully work or whatever, but at least there is some library support and something other than Ruby. So, and I promise I won't say any more.
Okay, so can I just go to the next slide? So in this slide, I want to summarize the changes. So data model refined. Second, errors of JSON schema was corrected. Third, example document is now available in not only JSON and also CBOR binary. And also we have a title of the draft was changed. We added CBOR in addition to JSON. And some errata was spotted. So that is the changes. So let me just go through. Next one, please.
Next one.
So from here, I want to talk about two errata I found in the RFC 7970 because we are generating converting tool from XML to JSON. So we happen to find some kind of errata that was not convertible to JSON. So this is the point. The first one is here. Current schema is described like this. But if we take a look at the main body of the IETF version 2, it allows to have real value. That's missing from the schema, so we change it. We propose to change it, and we already filed this errata on the system. So if it's okay, I hope we can just change it to the base spec. Okay. Next one, please.
You guys tell me once you reach agreement in the working group that this errata is correct, and then I'll approve it.
Roman Janilio, Carnegie Mellon University. Yeah, I think that errata is correct.
Thank you.
How about you, what is the Errata message?
Yes. Yes.
Next.
Next, please. One more errata. Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. Sorry. Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So one more errata. So it's a bit not so easy to understand, but in the main body text, it's something like at least one of two class have to appear, but that was not reflected in the schema. In this schema, none of the domain data class, and yes, so we just changed it to yes. It should be okay, but again, I have to ask confirmation from the audience, especially from Roman. So this was not reflected in the schema. We just deleted this normal class.
We took out the first, so because it there is one.
Yeah.
Yes, for the record, that's correct as well.
Thank you.
I will respond to the errata request through my mailbox.
So we found errata, and based on the new correct schema, we generate some kind of converter from XML to JSON and also JSON to XML. So we have some implementation already, and the document is almost ready. And indeed, the data model itself was already discussed before when we were working on IETF version 2. So we do not see any issue to discuss here anymore. So if nobody objects, I want to ask you whether we can proceed to the working group last call. That's a question to the audience and also to the chair.
Okay, besides Roman, has anybody else had a chance to review this? Can you review it? And so if you can provide comments, let's see, November.
Thank you.
Can we do it before the holidays and then December? Yeah, by end of December, right? So I'll put a working group last call, and then if you can help review it, then we'll move forward for it.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And also we want to show you some of the snapshot of our implementation. Actually, Mio has some kind of slides to display our prototype that can convert between JSON and XML.
Uh-oh, did you,
Can I switch?
did you update slides?
No, but I have to demonstrate.
Oh.
Split.
Demo, of course. Oh, you're okay.
Okay. Hello, I'm Mio Suzuki from NICT. I will present the IETF JSON XML converter, which is continued from the presentation in London. This is overview. We are aiming to convert from JSON IETF document from XML IETF document and vice versa. And this is running code for latest JSON IODF draft. And we are currently implementing new combater, including IETF hackathon days in Bangkok. But sorry, we cannot solve errors on previous implemented combater based on Python JSON schema object, which is presented in IETF London. So we try to implement the new combater, and we have almost implemented that using Go XSD make package 2. This is new combater design and implementation. At first, we use XML IODF schema, which is included in IODF RFC, and we use XSD make package 2, which is written in Go, and then generate the XML wrapper package, including Go struct for saving intermediate state. And we wrap the combater code written in Go and make the combater and if JSON IODF document, we use the JSON IODF document to convert the XML and from XML to JSON. We use Go XML package and also Go JSON package to Marshall and Marshall. And if we have to convert JSON from XML, we use JSON package and Marshall function and XML package Marshall function. That's it. And I will demonstrate my combater. Okay. Sorry. The combater is located in the private repository in the GitHub. But in near future, we will publish in that combater in public. And we use my terminal, and this is a combater directory, and we have some examples XML and example JSON in the JSON IODF draft, and also in IODF usage RFC. And we use, for example, DDoS example. Oh, sorry. This is a DDoS example in the usage RFC, and this is sorry. We use combater from the we use the combater from the this DDoS XML to JSON. Okay. Finished, and we have the out files and those JSON. This is a converted result, and I think it's validated, and correct. Okay, back to the slide. Okay, and this is the current status and future plan. We have successfully converted all examples in JSON IODF draft bi-directionally. And we also converted all examples in IODF usage guidance RFC. And we will publish that converter in GitHub public repository near future. And we also planning to implement conversion to CBOR. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Looks good, Neo.
Thank you.
Looking forward for it being available in GitHub. So do you have a timeline for when you'll have it available, public?
It depends on my big boss. Big boss authorization.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our agenda. Are there any other items that anybody wants to raise, discuss? Going once? Going twice? I think we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So I do look forward to getting feedback. Once we have the CSERT draft and for the JSON CBOR. So thank you for volunteering, Frank.
Also, Nancy, for the JSON draft, I have to ask Frank and also Robin for reviewing. I will push them.
Yeah.
Yes. And after that, could I ask you to ask Stephanie as well?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I just have to push them.
Yeah, we need to make sure we get feedback from them. That way we have the email trail to say we've had. I don't know who else. I don't know who else could help review. We could ask Hank.
Yes, because
He's CDDL. That way, that might help Alexi,
Yes.
right?
So
Um,
should I contact him or should I?
Yeah, if you can. You know Hank. Yeah. That will at least, that'll give us 3.
Okay.
So that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taki. Okay, did everybody sign the blue sheet? I guess so.